has rather complex dimensions to it, which does not lend itself to an auditorium response. Let me say that we do have to seriously consider how we have our own tax system in this country. I think it's much better to tax what we don't like than to tax what we do like. Taxing what we don't like means imposing for the first time a tiny percentage tax on all stock and option derivative transactions. And the more you speculate, the more you churn, the more you buy and you sell, the more revenues will flow in to provide the money for universal health insurance and all the other things. It is interesting, you go into a bookstore, you pay a sales tax. You go into a furniture store, you pay a sales tax. You go into a food store in some states, maybe not here, and you pay a sales tax. But you buy $400,000 worth of shares or 1 million options, and you don't pay a fraction of 1% for those transactions. And also, I think we should severely tax polluters. That's something else. Well, there are nice ways to discuss these in a presidential campaign if the debates include more than just the two major look-alike candidates. We have, yes.
Hi, my name is Mark Taylor. I'm with the Capitol Hill Community Council. And I had the pleasure of meeting you, Mr. Nader, during the Jim Hightower show, when I showed you some of the non-lethal, so-called non-lethal weapons that were being used on the demonstrators in Seattle.
Yes.
And then also, you gave me some advice, and I checked with the Center for Citizen Advocacy about how we could follow up with the city's review. What I've got here right now is a draft report I'd like to give to you, which is a study that the Citizens Committee for Government Accountability did with the city's investigation here in Seattle. What I'd like from you is a comment about the civil rights violations that we've seen in Washington, D.C. during the IMF World Bank demonstrations, in Philadelphia, during the Republican National Convention, and in Los Angeles.
Right, the question dealt with the civil rights violations that the demonstrators in Seattle, Los Angeles, and Washington over the last 9 months have incurred by the police. Police overreaching for a variety of reasons. Some of them aren't trained, some of them are rogues, others are not properly supervised. That still leaves a lot of good police, so let's not overgeneralize. But the point is that there have been so few mass demonstrations in our country in the last 30 years, the police don't know how to deal with it. So they gear up like robocops, unbelievable equipment, and pepper spray, and so forth. And you got to use some of this equipment, otherwise, the mayor and the others that developed the budgets, what are we getting all this for? You can't use it. And there have been some pretty raw violations of people's civil rights. And this results in lawsuits against the city, and the city is going to have to pay millions of dollars, presumably, for some of these injuries and violations if they're adjudicated in that manner. So I think we need, even though the demonstrators' leaders meet with the police ahead of time, they want peaceful demonstration, nonviolent civil disobedience. There are a few demonstrators who want to get more media by smashing some windows. But again, we shouldn't stereotype all the demonstrators. But I think the police need to be much better trained in the constitutional rights of open field demonstration. If you quiz some of the police, they are not knowledgeable at all about what the right to petition is. And so the ACLU and other groups local are trying to elevate the interaction here so that in future demonstrations, this will not happen. Why do people have to demonstrate? It's because they're shut out of the mass media. If they had their own radio, televisions, they had their own media, well funded, as I indicated earlier, they wouldn't have to demonstrate. They wouldn't have to block traffic in order to get news that evening on their major issues that they've been working on and studying. So when I see mass demonstrations, I see the other side of exclusion from the mass media. And that's one way we can deal with this problem. Yes, something back there?
I think that the consumers are responsible for giving the corporations their power. And because of Microsoft, I can buy a computer for $700. Is Bill Gates at fault, or am I or we at fault for wanting computers for $700?
Eventually, you know, the people are at fault, right? Because the people haven't mobilized, they haven't anticipated, they've trusted too much. They got other things to do, so when they're cheated, they don't have the time to pursue the cheaters. But that doesn't exonerate the perpetrators. You've got to always distinguish between the perpetrators and the victims. The perpetrators are responsible for their perpetration, and the victims are responsible for organizing it politically, economically, trade union, or anything to put a stop to it. So the fact that people are going along with this because lack of alternatives, remedies, knowledge, etc., does not in any way exonerate the manufacturers of toxics and defective products and fraudulent instruments, etc. So just make that very, very clear distinction.
Why is the election on a Tuesday? Where does the Green Party stand on that? And besides, I've got Tybo on Tuesdays.
Why is the election on a Tuesday? Where does the Green Party stand? I'm not sure they stand, although they're probably very supportive of having it on a holiday, a national holiday, or extending it, or having it on a weekend. There are, say, 5–10% of the people who don't vote because they're commuting and they're commuting when the polls are open. Now, I don't like the Oregon system, where there's no election day anymore. That's just a deadline. Everybody votes by mail. So you know, something happens to exposing a politician 3 days before the election, and for 80% of the people, it's too late. They've already sent their ballot in. I mean, Oregon has some great progressive legislation that they've passed over the years. First, to give women right to vote, initiative, referendum, recall, etc. But this one, they went off the reservation.
Question up there?
Yes, I'll get to you. Yes.
Mr. Nader, after you're elected president,
That's the spirit.
what will be your first 3 acts as president that will not require approval or support from Congress?
Well, you have a distinctly unique view of presidential powers here. Maybe I'll say 3 national speeches on how to build a strong democracy with the proposals to Congress. And second, how to equip people with the rights to form trade unions in tens of millions. And the third is, gee, it's hard to pick one. Okay, yes, that would be, it's about time after 27 years. The third one is basically proposing a constitutional amendment to completely structure the powers, responsibilities of the corporate system itself. There's nothing in the Constitution. The Constitution does not mention corporation. So the Supreme Court does and interprets it, etc. But anyway, I suppose if you ask me tomorrow what 3, I'd formulate it in a different way. I don't like, you know, first 3 questions. But, I can understand why you asked it. Yes, Becca.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay, wait. Yes.
Mr. Nader, first of all, I want to thank you for everything you've done for this
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. No, I don't. I think the Electoral College is really an anachronism, and it should be just a majority vote based on proportional representation.